1995, I did not want to have a phone with so much control over me and having all my data on it, but today I do. All of us, most of us at least, do. 15 years from now, we will also be comfortable with this kind of technology where our car is being driven by itself. I don't have to do anything. It's taking me over to work. 15, 20 years, it's not too far from now. So this is the kind of direction that we're headed towards. Imagine what happens. Yesterday there was a video of a Jeep being hacked. Again, Mr. Pramod's session. I do have a slide on that also, incidentally. Imagine what would happen if someone were to break into that kind of car and take control of your physical security, your safety as a human being. All right, so what I'm seeing here is, to sum it all up, the past few slides, in today's context, from a security perspective, the main thing that organizations are concerned in protecting, forget the money, forget the trade secrets and everything, this should have been the first point here, the reputations. The reason they're willing to pay so much to hire consultants or whatever, security organizations to try and secure their organizations, to try and secure their data, is because the reputation is at stake. Okay, there's been so many breaches, the famous ones, Target, Heartland Payment Systems, these are breaches that went public. So I'm okay with, mentioning the names. These companies' reputations have been, to a certain extent, damaged. That's what people don't want to lose. Sony, we saw the slide yesterday, right? Sony. And these are the only instances where hacks have actually gone public. We don't know how many cases organizations have been breached, but haven't chosen to reveal it to the public. It's going to be in the thousands, hundreds, 100,000s probably. But that is what the maximum that we can protect today, and from an InfoSec perspective, is money, trade secrets, business downtime, etc. In the future, it's going to be human life. That's where I see this is headed, because we are going to depend so much on technology that if there is an InfoSec incident, the outcome is going to be a loss of human life. Okay, so as a security professional, this is the kind of direction that I would probably see us moving towards. Protecting and saving lives, not just money, not just data, etc. I was talking to Vackayil this morning about cyber extortion. This is what it is. This is what is happening today. What you see on your left side. This actually does happen. There are people in Eastern Europe, Russia, China, etc., who actually break into a bank's database. All they need is cash. The easy option is call up the bank and tell the bank guys, hey, you know what, I have access of your database and I have some evidence to prove this. Now, if you don't pay me this sum of money, I'm going to just crash your server. I'm going to encrypt all the tables, for instance. The table is not encrypted as such, and no one knows how to decrypt it if the hacker is the guy who's encrypting it. The bank has to pay him the sum of money. It's a way cheaper solution than actually getting hacked. So they have to do this, and they try to fix the flaw, whatever the flaw was. In future, what is going to happen is, I am an individual in a self-driving car going to work, and I get a call from a guy telling me, hey, I have control of your car. You know what, I'm going to turn the engine off just to prove that I actually do it. And this has been done in the Jeep Cherokee incident, in fact. The engine of the car was shut down remotely by some security researchers sitting about half a mile away. So this is the kind of situations that we are going to be seeing over the next few years, because every time there's a good thing, there is definitely going to be a bad thing. Right? Every action, equal opposite reaction stuff. So as technology goes and takes greater control of our lives, the way the crooks think and operate is going to get more creative. It's going to get more dangerous. Good thing for you guys, if you're looking into security, what I see is there's always going to be a job for you guys. If you know your stuff, essentially, your soft skills and your technology stuff, there's always going to be a way to survive even after you're 60, even after you retire. There's always going to be opportunities. That's the way I see it. It's my personal view. All right, so 4 emergent technologies. Now we're getting to the core of the presentation. I think we're okay with time. I've picked up 4 emergent technologies. And what we have is we're going to just look at these technologies and look at what security challenges they're actually going to be bringing forward. So I'm not here today to propose solutions to these challenges. I'm here to probably insight the thought process on how we can prepare for these challenges and how we can actually probably think about solutions, in fact. Okay. First off is robotics. Anybody here from college specializing in robotics, artificial intelligence? I think I see a hand there. Excellent. So you guys will be the SMEs, in fact, in case we need you. All right, perfect. 3D printing. Who hasn't heard of 3D printing? Has not heard of 3D printing. Excellent. Okay, you will hear over the next few slides. Wearables. Vijay mentioned wearables in his slide today. Where is he? Okay, he did say something about watches, your fitness bands, in fact. We will be looking at those. Anybody here wearing a smartwatch? Nope? Okay. Internet of Things, any look at future technology will actually have to touch upon IoT. This is where things are headed towards. You have 10 things having their own little protocol worlds, having their own little worlds of technology, get them all to talk to each other. That's how the internet came about. And that's the next thing that's actually going to happen, the Internet of Things. So we're just going to quickly look at each of these areas and look at what security challenges we have to be prepared for over the next few years, or maybe decades even. Okay, so we're starting with robotics. And you can guide me, Soren, in case you're interested. It's not a new field, okay? I'm not an expert on robotics. What I did is I picked up 4 fields which I thought are actually interesting, and I tried to look at them from a security perspective. And this is what I found out. Robotics is nothing new. All it is process automation. I want to do something, probably take this thing and put it down there. Instead of doing it myself, I invent a machine to do it. That's all that a robot is. It doesn't have to be something as complex as what you see in iRobot or Terminator movies, right? So it's just something as simple as something which takes something here and puts it down there. You watched this movie, right? 3 Idiots. He defines a machine, something that simplifies a process. Who's not watched the movie? 3 Idiots. Okay, it's something they mention in that particular movie. Anything that simplifies a process is a machine, and a robot is something that actually assists you in this. It does something that you would have done in, let's say, 10 hours. It does it in a couple of minutes, or maybe less. The first robot, in fact, was something that was invented by this ancient 360 BC person called Archytas. He invented a bird that actually used steam to power its movement, and I believe it was able to fly. And later in the 60s, way later, General Motors, GM, I think they either developed the robot or they bought it from the person who acquired it, who developed it. They acquired it from the person who developed it. Sorry? Yeah, I think it's a robot that is actually used in making cars, essentially. It's GM. Something that actually was able to lift hot parts and put it into a cooling liquid as part of the car manufacturing process. That's when robots were actually used on an assembly line in a factory. So today's context, we have robots in pretty much every area of life. You talk about manufacturing. Can someone tell me what that car is that's being made? Beamer, perfect. BMWs, they use these robots in their factories. You must have seen mega factories on Nat Geo. Anybody? Oh, wow, excellent. Happy. Yeah, I watch that show regularly, and there's a lot of cases where they show manufacture of cars, and there's always a case where there's a robot that does something or the other, whether it's your Nano or whether it's your Audi. The paint process, for instance, something that needs precision work, especially in the case of luxury cars, that has to be precise, it has to be consistent. The previous car has to be the exact replica of the next one. So these are things that robots actually make easier. Some car manufacturer, I think Bentley, doesn't really go in for automation. Royal Enfield, they actually try to hand make their entire motorcycle. That's where the passion comes in for Royal Enfield, I guess. But yeah, when you're talking about an assembly line, robots make things easier. Robotic surgery. You must have heard about this, you guys. Perfect. We have these machine kind of things where a surgeon is actually able to operate robotic arms to do complex, intricate activities. I'm not a doctor myself, but this is what I understand from it. Talents, military applications. How can the defense department be behind in terms of robotics? Talon is what I found out was the most commonly used military robot in the world. It weighs just 45 kilos. So you're a soldier who weighs, let's say, 80 to 90 kilos. Carrying a Talon around wouldn't be much of an issue for you. So it's developed by a company called Foster Miller. And as I said, they are the most commonly used robots. They are amphibious. They can go on water, on land, etc. Now, in today's context, Talons are used primarily for search and rescue operations. Okay, so the message that we get is these things save lives. But in the next version, these devices are going to be coming out with, in case you've already guessed it, you're right, guns, grenade launchers. It makes it easier for you to attack your enemy from a remote place, right? You get the machine to do it for you. How far can I control safety of a human being when there's a machine that is actually compromising it? Okay, a remotely operated machine. These machines are what we call autonomous. They don't act independently. They have to be always controlled by someone working X, Y, Z meters away. To what extent can I, as a security professional, safeguard the lives of people when they are at stake with machines like these operating in the arena? Okay, that's a question that we'll have to think about. The other question, we looked at this this particular picture on a robotic surgery, right? Now, these can be done on a remote basis as well. I'm sure you've heard about this. Doctor is sitting in India, and a patient is somewhere in Africa. Doctor is able to operate the arm, the robotic arms essentially, from sitting in India, and he's able to treat a patient who is in a different continent, right? So robotic surgery, that's what it is. Tele-robotic surgery. Imagine I hack into that channel, the communication link between my Indian doctor and my African patient. Okay, so suppose this is an important person, this African patient, some delegate, some African VIP, and I want his life to be mitigated. Imagine I break into this channel. What will I think of? What will I think are my entry points? Okay, first off, I would probably, the easiest option is for me to just go into Africa and to the African hospital and actually try to compromise his life, but probably he's very securely guarded. The easiest option for me is actually to break into the link between the surgeon and the patient. I try to hack into the network link and try to manipulate the actions of the robo. That's what I put on these next few slides. There are three cases, right? So we got the surgeon and we got the robo. What I do is an intention modification. I hack into the link between the two guys, between the surgeon and the robo. The surgeon says, do this. I manipulate the command message. I say, no, do that. And the robo does something else. My mission accomplished. Another case, the robot is telling the surgeon, it has done this. I modify the robot's message again, self-explanatory, and I tell the surgeon, no, it's not been done. Surgeon tries something else. Things go wrong. And the last case, I just I bump the surgeon out of the picture. I take control of the robot. This is called hijacking attack. It's very similar to the kind of man-in-the-middle attacks that we have today. You guys know about man-in-the-middle attacks. It's very similar, except that the consequences, as tele-robotic surgery becomes more prominent, is the consequences are going to be more serious. A life will get lost. So how bad can it get? I just covered all these points. It was just one example, but there is multiple scenarios that you can think of in this particular perspective. The more robots take over the different fields that we operate in, the easier it is for me to find an opportunity to tap into and misuse the technology. Now, this is something real. Who hasn't seen this? Or who has seen this, rather? Perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, good show of hands. This is something that did happen recently. In fact, the date is there. Yeah, July 1st, 2015. A robo kills a guy at Volkswagen manufacturing plant in Germany. This is what the company said. Human error, right? So I'm not going to contest this message. They probably were right. But what I'm saying is, think of the consequences. You know how media statements are actually issued. You've seen a lot of Hollywood movies, even Collywood movies nowadays. So this is the diplomatic message to be given out. Human error, right? Nobody knows, at least outside of Volkswagen, what actually happened. Was it really human error? Was it a disgruntled guy who was operating the robot and actually trying to, manipulate his actions? Manifest his actions, sorry. We don't know, but today it is possible. On July 1st, 2015, this actually happened. Imagine what can happen 10 years from now. End of the day, a life has been lost. Security approach, what I will say is, this is what I thought could be taken right now. Try to harden your devices. What we say to organizations today is the same thing that we will be saying from a robotics perspective as well. Strong encryption of the link between let's say, the surgeon and the robo. I really don't know how you take control of a situation when a talent robot, the military robot, is here and out here to shoot you. In fact, we'll have to think about solutions for those kind of scenarios. You're under attack by a robot. Like, it can even be a drone, a military drone that's out there trying to bomb us down. Harden the endpoint devices and perform advanced network and app level penetration testing. So the concepts are still the same. The basics is what I will say. Let's go back to the basics. In fact, the more you look at advanced technologies and the solution and the problems that they give, the easier it is for you to think about how relevant the fundamental basic solutions are. Okay, secure coding, for instance, is the main reason. Encrypting your passwords, that's a kind of, primary reasons that the biggest breaches are happening right now. Target, Heartland Payment, whatever it is you're looking at, it's very silly. I think in Target, the SSID, the password was not encrypted. The password that you have to enter to actually connect to the Wi-Fi network, it is an open Wi-Fi network. So the hackers are easily able to connect to the Wi-Fi network from Target. That's what I believe was the root cause. It happened a couple of years back. All right, 3D printing, a couple of people who haven't heard of it before. What I'll say is printing. You know what printing is. You get a 2D version of whatever is on your screen. That's a printout. Take it to the 3 dimensions. That's what 3D printing is all about. So if I have a template of this particular mic, I'm able to create something using a CAD software. You know what CAD is, CAD. Using computer-aided design software, I'm able to create a template, and in 3D printing world, it's called STL template. STL stands for stereolithographic. We'll look at that over the next few slides. If I have a template, I can manufacture a device that is exactly the same as this mic. Think about the consequences of that. Now, this is a very good technology. It's got a lot of applications, and I'll be looking at those first. But it also has a lot of ways in which it can be misused. We'll be looking at that next. Okay, so we're done with robotics. We're okay with time. 3D printing. Any questions before we move? Nope. Back in class, I'm going back to my Crescent days, when teachers asked us if we had any questions, we used to get the same response. Okay, good. Probably over towards the end, we'll see. 3D printing has been around since the 80s, and yeah, it's just started catching on. Those are all 3D printed objects. You just need to Google it, and you have it. 3D printed objects. These are all things that are harmless, made out of a ceramic material, more in line with plastic. The good news is, for doctors, even living cells can be 3D printed. So doctors are actually looking at 3D printing huts for a patient that needs a transplant, or lungs, or kidney, or whatever it is. So you don't need to wait for a donor. The printer is actually going to come to your rescue. With living tissue, you can actually print, you can actually grow these organs and actually put them into the people who can afford to have them. Now think of all the bad things that we can do with a 3D printer, but yeah, let's look at the applications first. As I said earlier, you will need a 3D printer. It's not too expensive. I think it's 80,000 rupees or something. For people who really want it, they can spend that much on it. It's also called stereolithography, and all you need is this printer, and you need a website like thingiverse.com, where you get 3D templates. You just need to download this template, feed it into your printer, and voila, your object is printed for you. Right, so what this means is, I have an STL template. It's called an STL format file. You can Google them, they're all out there. All you need is use it to print whatever you want. Companies are looking into it. I'm not naming the organizations here, but primarily there's a lot of companies that are using 3D printing. If you're looking at manufacturing, I need to make a mold. I use 3D printing to create my mold. Works for me. If you're looking at the medical sector, that's what I mentioned earlier. You can grow organs using 3D printers. Defense sector, definitely those guys would be into it. Education, you're talking specifically from a medical college perspective, medical education sector. You will need 3D printed models of your skeletal system, your muscular system. When it's 3D printed, it turns out to be extremely accurate, very close attention to detail, and it actually supports a student's understanding of the organs. All right. 3D, no, that was all the good side. We're coming over to the bad side because that's what we're here to discuss. 3D printed weapons. Okay, now that is a real website, Defense Distributed. The first one that comes up on Google when you look for 3D printed guns. You just need to log into this website, and you have access to an STL template to print a 3D gun. Okay, who has heard of this? 3D printed guns. It's a term by itself by now. Excellent. 3D printed guns. It's catching on big time. It makes it very easy for an individual. It can be A, B, C, anybody sitting in this room. All you need is an internet connection and a 3D printer. You will be able to manufacture your own gun. Question is, do these guns actually fire weapons? And the answer is, yes, they do. That's a clip of a guy, I don't recall his name, but they're able to make a fully functional 3D printed gun that's on YouTube, and this gun actually does fire, gunfire. Plastic guns, the main threat here is we have an invisible weapon, right?